Well, welcome to the 700 Club. The Sackler family made a fortune. I mean, a multi-billion-dollar fortune. And they went around the country saying, well, pain is something we must not allow anymore. And we have something called OxyContin that's going to take care of the pain. And then somehow along the way, the FDA has said, well, this is not just for occasional use, which is what it would maybe be good for, but it's going to be good for continuous use. And that, of course, put billions of dollars more into a company called Purdue Pharma. Well, Purdue Pharma, thank the Lord, is facing bankruptcy because there are thousands of lawsuits claiming the role of that company in America's opioid epidemic. Wendy.
As Lori Johnson reports, many drug addicts started out taking prescription painkillers, and that opened the door to more deadly drugs.
An estimated 3/4 of heroin and fentanyl addicts first became addicted to prescription painkillers like OxyContin. That includes former paratrooper Matt Gossard, who received prescription painkillers after an injury from a parachute jump. Like millions of others, Matt got hooked on the pills, and when the prescription ran out, turned to painkillers' cousin, heroin.
Because it's almost the same thing, except for heroin's just stronger, and it's cheaper, and it's more available, which is the scary part.
That was in Ohio. In nearby West Virginia, Elaine Vance also started on painkillers, then switched to heroin.
I remember doing the first time I ever done heroin. I remember thinking, this might kill me. I may die.
In 2017, more than 47,000 people died from overdoses involving opioids, including prescription painkillers, heroin, and fentanyl. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine is one of thousands to sue Purdue Pharma and others, alleging company execs knowingly concealed the dangers of opioids.
We had a number of pharmaceutical companies that developed pain meds, and they were pushing those out. And they were telling the doctors, these are not very addictive. Turns out they are very addictive.
Filing for bankruptcy protection would stop the lawsuits and would let a judge supervise negotiations between Purdue Pharma and those suing it. In a statement, the company said they are deeply concerned about the opioid addiction crisis and is proud of the actions we have taken to ensure opioids are prescribed appropriately, increase access to the overdose antidote naloxone, and fund youth education programs warning of the dangers of opioids. Every day, more than 130 people in the U.S. die after overdosing on opioids. Matt could have been one of them, but like Elaine and many others, discovered a way out.
I believe that Jesus Christ is the only answer. I believe that there is no other answer other than Christ.
I started getting to know Jesus, and I realized that the same power that rose him from the grave is what fights addiction.
The treatment that works many times has a faith-based component part to it.
Lori Johnson, CBN News.
It's just so hypocritical for Purdue Pharma to say, well, we're proud of the work we did. They are the ones that hooked America. Then some of the other companies got into the act, and they started dumping tens of thousands of doses of that thing on rural communities in West Virginia and Ohio and all these places. And thousands of people began to be hooked. And then there was that highway down into Florida where these prescription drugs were being passed out like candy, and people by the thousands are being hooked. The problem with this opioid thing is it's just not like coming off of heroin or cocaine or one of these other drugs. There's something that happens to a person's mind and their physiognomy when they're taking these opioids that they can't stop. And so you say, well, let them go cold turkey. They can go cold turkey for a few weeks, and they can only get right back on it. And so there has to be something. They're developing new drugs to try to bring people down slowly because they can't take it. It's just a horrible addiction. OxyContin, and then there's something called hydrocodone, and they are deadly. And the companies, I think, in addition to this Purdue, which was the center of it, there are others that should pay the price. And the FDA, tip my hat to 60 Minutes a few weeks ago that brought out that expose on the fact that the FDA had written into the rules that allowed these opioids to be given on an ongoing basis as opposed to only 1 or 2 doses. And that, of course, meant billions of dollars into the pockets of the people who pushed these dreadful drugs. Now, you've heard the Democrats saying there's no crisis on the border, but the people down there say that it is overwhelming. They can't meet the demand. There's so many people coming to our border trying to cross, and they've got this deal. If they've got children with them, they get a special permit, and the courts that deal with this are overwhelmed. They can't handle it. And they're saying, well, Congress, please do something. And the Democrats in Congress say, no way, we're not doing anything. We're going to embarrass the president who said it's a national emergency. John Jessup has more.
Pat, as you were just saying, so many immigrants are crossing the southwest border. Officials say the system is at a breaking point. Customs and Border Patrol Commissioner Kevin McAllinan says 66,000 arrests were made in February alone, the highest number since 2010. A total of 76,000 actually crossed the border illegally, and it's more families with children.
It should be very clear from these numbers that we are facing alarming trends in the rising volumes of people illegally crossing our southwest border or arriving at our ports of entry without documents.
The commissioner blamed the increase in border traffic on, quote, the vulnerabilities in our legal system. He says what Border and Customs Patrol are doing now to accommodate people coming here illegally is not sustainable. Well, the White House is fighting back against the latest round of investigations as Democrats allege corruption, obstruction, and abuse of power against the president. But President Trump insists there's nothing to see. Charlene Aaron has the story.
The president is fighting back, blasting Democrats and their sweeping new investigations.
It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace to our country.
The House Judiciary Committee sent 81 letters to people and organizations seeking information in investigations into everything from obstruction of justice to corruption and abuse of power.
Congress has an independent responsibility, a very solemn one, to do oversight.
While promising cooperation, the administration is in a combative stance. The White House counsel's office rejecting the committee's request for documents regarding White House security clearances, including for the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner.
The president had no involvement pertaining to my clearance or my husband's clearance, zero.
In an interview on Fox News Radio, the president's son, Eric Trump, had this to say: "We'll fight where we need, and we'll cooperate where we'll need." The White House is beefing up its legal team with a dozen lawyers and a special attorney to handle the media. On the CBN News show Faith Nation, Capitol Hill reporter Abigail Robertson talked about why Congress is launching new investigations, in addition to special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia probe.
Well, one of the key distinctions that Democrats are making between the Mueller investigation and the House investigations they're pursuing is that they're not guaranteed that the Mueller investigation will be made public. And so they want to pursue investigations that they know mainly will be made public.
Meanwhile, former Trump attorney Ty Cobb says the Mueller probe is not likely to do political damage because it does not prove collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign. Cobb also said he respects Mueller and does not consider the investigation a witch hunt. As Democrats pursue their investigations into the president, his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, is returning to Congress today for a 4th day of testimony behind closed doors. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Thanks, Charlene. And Pat, with all these investigations, the important thing to remember is it's only the beginning.
It's not the end. It's just the beginning. It's horrible to think about. You know, this is a great country. And again, I want to say, what do the Democrats in Congress think they're going to achieve? They cannot impeach the president. They can bring a motion of impeachment in the House. There's no way they're going to get 2/3 vote in the Senate to convict the president. It's not going to happen. It isn't possible to happen. So all they're trying to do is to stall the president, to bind up the president like Gulliver and the Lilliputians, to keep him from doing anything to help our country. And what about our economy? What about our foreign policy? What about the possibility of war someplace? Are we going to have a president who is nullified because of a few selfish people in Congress? That's what it amounts to. It's nothing but a publicity stunt. And I might add, and I want to say it very clearly, Congress has no constitutional authority. That Blumenthal from Connecticut makes me sick in my stomach when I hear him talk. But that business, well, we've got to take this oversight. No way. There's nothing in the Constitution that allows Congress to just begin to have a witch hunt to talk to a president about what he did before he became president. That was for the voters to decide. They put him in office. He's their man. Then the question of impeachment is something that is high crimes and misdemeanors while in office. But it has to be pursuant to some legislative objective. What is the law that they plan to pass? Are they telling anybody? The answer is no, because they have no law they want to pass. They merely want to impeach or embarrass the president, and that's wrong. So what I said yesterday, I say it again, it's time for the legal team of the president to begin fighting in the courts, to ask for declaratory judgment in court after court after court. Every time they get a request for something that they figure is legal, take it and say this is constitutionally impermissible and we want a declaratory judgment. Then let the congressman not just be throwing subpoenas at the White House, 81 of them, but let them be answering in the court of law. And I think that would be the answer. And I'm sure that's what's going to be done very soon. John.
Pat, another victory for Jack Phillips, the Colorado cake baker who refused to bake a cake for a gay wedding and whose case went all the way to the Supreme Court. The High Court ruled in Phillips' favor in that case, but the state of Colorado went after him a second time for not baking a transgender transformation cake. Tuesday, the Colorado Civil Rights Commission announced its decision to drop that case after comments made by members of the commission revealed clear hostility toward religious freedom. The decision puts an end to 6.5 years of Phillips' legal battles. Well, more rough winter weather expected to hit California. Meteorologists are calling for heavy rain, flooding, and snow in parts of the state. The rains come as flooding is already a problem due to melting snow. The forecast includes soaking rains and snowfall in the Sierra Nevada region through Thursday. Parts of southwestern and northern California will get up to 3 inches of rain and as much as 4 feet of snow in the higher elevations of the Sierra. The snow is expected to stretch as far as the Rockies. Well, passengers on a Norwegian cruise ship had a terrifying experience. High winds up to 115 miles an hour hit the ship, pulling out of New York City with a strong storm hitting. Furniture skidded across the floor and glasses fell to the deck as passengers struggled to hang on.
Well, I was thinking of the boat going down. At that point, I said, this is it. It felt like the boat was, turning over.
Several passengers and crew were injured, 8 people taken to the hospital, but all have been released. There was no damage to the ship, and it's scheduled to continue its voyage to the Bahamas. Pat, some nightmarish moments for those passengers. I
can't imagine what they experienced, because I've been on a ship in the high seas, and it's not fun at all when the hurricane force winds begin to come upon you, but it's coming out of the harbor. That's unbelievable.